Welcome to the Healthcare Business Secrets show, where we interview industry leaders and break down exactly how they're dominating their markets so you can learn from the best, can double your revenue, double your impact, and double your time off. In this episode, we're talking with Carlos Reyes. Carlos is a symbol of the American dream, immigrating to the US from Mexico with his mother and growing up poor after deciding to quit a 14-year corporate job in 2015 to pursue the dream of building his own real estate investment company. And with the help of his partner, Sal Shakir, they started National Cash Offer and Offer Key. Both companies consistently produce six figures each month, and they've diversified into some 27 businesses. 7 of them are grossing 7 figures per year through their proprietary scaling systems. Super excited to have you on the show, Carlos. There's going to be so much value, and I'm looking forward to picking your brain around what it's taken you to get success and how I can model some of that, but definitely my audience as well. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me. I think this was long overdue, right? We've been trying to make it happen for quite some time, and I'm glad to be here, man. And I cannot wait to dive deep into some of the subjects and topics that people need to hear, and actually not only hear, right? Because knowledge isn't power. A lot of people say knowledge is power. No, the execution of that knowledge is the power. So I really hope that after this show, people take some of the content from this show and actually apply it to their daily lives, God willing.
Yeah, I think that, to jump in real quick, I think it's a really good distinction, because this idea of knowledge is power was probably true when we didn't have access to so much knowledge. And so it was, you get the knowledge because then if you're hungry enough to go out and get the knowledge, you're probably hungry enough to actually go and do the work. And so there wasn't this delineation between the two of them. Now that we've all got phones and the internet and knowledge is everywhere, knowledge is a commodity. It's everywhere. It's about your ability to execute on it. And if you don't have the knowledge, it's almost your own fault because it's everywhere. And the separating factor now is, what are you going to do with that to actually get a result? So tell us a bit about your background. I know that, it wasn't necessarily the easiest upbringing. You've taken that and you've used it and you've applied that knowledge yourself. Tell us sort of where you were at and where you're at now, so we've got some context.
My background, brother, I was born in Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico, which is a northern state in the country of Mexico. And it's a city, and we couldn't afford to live there. So we had to migrate down south about 2 hours outside of that city, which is a small port, Guaymas, Sonora. We went there, and we're pretty poor. When I say poor, it's dirt. Like our house that my grandfather built for us. It was my mother, myself, my brother, and my grandma and grandpa. The house that he built was literally made out of plywood and wood, like 4x4s, right? And then laminate roofing with the dirt floor. We had absolutely no running water for my first, I would say, until the 6th grade. So no running water, no electricity. My mother and my grandmother, they would actually wash our clothes in a washing board in the back, right? And the way that we would get our water is there was a truck that would come around every week with big old water, like jugs, big old blue water containers. And that's how we would have to purchase our water. And then we would grab those containers and put them in the front yard. And we would grab water from there to, wash our clothes and wash ourselves. Right. So that was my first, several years of my life. And we had no running electricity for a very long time either, because in Mexico, where I lived, it costs money to put together power lines and posts to run electricity to your house. So most of the kids in my neighborhood, I was fortunate enough that, I didn't have running water. I didn't have electricity, but I was fortunate enough to have shoes. A lot of kids in my neighborhood didn't have shoes. When we would go play soccer, they actually played barefoot. They had like the toughest feet you can ever think of. Like these people, they can probably walk on glass if you told them to, so that was where I was born. That was where I was raised. And one day my mother said, "Hey, man, my mother, she's a visionary. She's a visionary. And I'll tell you, she's an entrepreneur by nature. And I'll tell you why. The principles inside her that I came to find out, once I became of age, she was a visionary for one. She was a visionary. She said, you know what? There's absolutely no future here for my children. So I'm going to have to make a sacrifice. We're all going to have to make some sacrifices. I'm going to leave my children with grandma and grandpa for a few years. I'm going to take the trek up north. She came up to the United States of America, and she started working in the fields in America, and then she got a residency through Amnesty because she was working the fields. They gave her amnesty. They gave her paperwork to be here legally. So after 2 years, she came back down and grabbed her children. We came through a sewer system the first time through Tijuana, Mexico. Came through a sewer system into California through the border of Tijuana, and then we lasted about a year and a half. It was way too expensive because she decided to bring both of her kids right there and then, and it didn't work out financially. We failed, so we went back to Mexico, and this time my first entrepreneur job that I ever had, I was 5 years old and I was selling door-to-door bread. I was literally selling bread door to door in Mexico. Well, now, we went to America. We got a little taste of, the land of milk and honey. We were like, holy, they got grass, running water, electricity, buildings, right? Like, holy smokes, like what is going on here, right? Well, we got a little taste of that. We failed, went back to Mexico, and now I became a grocery bagger. Like I was literally in the sixth and seventh grade, and I was bagging groceries for a living because my mom was now working cleaning hotel rooms, and I started bagging groceries because we had a plan, and that plan was to get out of Mexico for the second time, get to Phoenix, Arizona, where I am today, right? This is my building. I actually bought this multi-million-dollar building in December of 2019. So our goal was to get back here. So my mom, what we would do with my mother's money is we would pay the day-to-day stuff, food and stuff like that. And then with my money, we would save my money so she can get back on the bus, have a little bit of wiggle room as far as, the money goes when she got back to Phoenix. So she left us for another 2 years. And finally, she brought me first. The second time I came through a fence in Nogales, Sonora, border of Nogales, Arizona. I snuck through that fence. A coyote, she paid a man that we didn't even know. She paid him $25. And I snuck. Now I'm in the 8th grade, and he snuck me through a fence. And then she waited for me on the other side, contraband me up to Phoenix from Nogales, from the border. And then she started working on my paperwork in 1997. And then I became a citizen of this great country in 2012. So it took us a very long time for me to become a citizen of this country. And here I am now. Here I am now. I'm trying to make the most out of it. I'm really trying to make the most out of it. I'm trying to make her proud. I retired her in 2017. That was about 4 years ago. March of 2017 is when I retired my mother. Just 3 short years after becoming a full-blown entrepreneur. I said, Mom, I came home one day. I said, Mom, you never have to worry about a dollar ever again. I'm going to take care of everything for you for the rest of your life. I am your retirement plan. So my mom, right now, she's in Mexico, visiting Mexico. And now she visits Mexico because she's retired. Like, she doesn't need anything. I take care of everything for her. And God willing, I always, for the rest, she's 60. She's born in 1957. So she's about 64 years old. For the rest of her life, God willing, she never has to worry about anything ever again when it comes to economics.
That's amazing. It's crazy, dude, because I'm here in New Zealand and we don't have these kind of conversations. You know what I mean? Like, this is it's not a thing. We don't. It's crazy to think, and it's amazing what you've created with it. But underlying that, I think, is something that we all can take from. It's like, you got to have real strong vision. You know exactly what you want, super clear. You got to have real strong reasons why, and then you can make it happen. And so any people who are bitching about various things that make life hard, it's like, let's get some perspective. There are people like yourself who are crushing it beyond reasonable odds that most people experience and having success. And I think that it comes down to very clear outcome, very clear reasons why, and you just got to make it happen. I use that on a daily basis in terms of getting myself to move forward and gamifying success for myself. By thinking about my kids, my family, etc., creating strong reasons why. And I think that if we don't have those inherently, we have to create them, because as humans, we're driven by that sort of thing. And you're in a situation that forced you guys to step up, or
Thank you, brother.
there's going to be some issues.
We've been through. I would never allow my children, and it's not my mother's fault. She didn't do anything wrong. She did what she had to do, right? I got an 8-year-old daughter. I got a 2-year-old daughter, and I can never imagine ever like them going through what I had to go through as a child. I didn't have a
Yeah.
child. I've actually had to
Mm,
do a lot of work with personal development coaches and life coaches for me to actually face those demons that I had programming wise when I was growing up. And
mm,
again, none of this was my mother's fault. She did what she had to do. She abandoned us twice. She had to, or else I wouldn't be here. You know what I
mm,
mean? So I've had to peel back the layers of that onion over the past several years. Once I started making good money and I can actually spend $10,000, $15,000 a month on, personal development coaching. I got coaches now, I got several coaches, one coach in Florida, one coach in Arizona. And it's something that I had to work through, because I was carrying a lot of that trauma and
mm,
baggage as far as the adversity that I had to go through. And it's
mm,
funny that you mentioned some of these principles, what it takes to be successful. Remember, I was telling you that my mother, in my opinion, was an entrepreneur without her even
mm,
knowing she was an entrepreneur, because my 5 principles to becoming a successful entrepreneur is principle number 1 is just to reiterate what you said, right? Principle number 1 is making a decision, making
mm,
a decision on what it is that you want out of this life,
mm,
this short life, right? That's principle number 1. Principle number 2 is being committed to that decision. And
yeah.
that's something that I believe my mother, she made a decision and she committed to that decision. And then principle number 3 is sacrifice. My mother made every sacrifice in the book, and so did we as children. And so did
Mm,
my grandfather and my grandmother who were taking care of us at that time. And principle number 4 is work ethic. My mother has worked 2, 3 jobs at the same time. 8.25 an hour is the most she's ever made. She doesn't speak English to this day. And yet, her son became a multimillionaire and retired her, so work
mm,
ethic. I learned a lot of my work ethic from watching her work her butt off. And
mm,
principle number 5, which is something I believe that was the strongest principle inside my mother, is perseverance. She never gave up. She never gave up. And I think that programmed me in some way to not give up. I didn't give up. She didn't give up. Like, right. It's like my mother who doesn't speak English and she's a single mom didn't give up. Why would I give up? So here we are. I learned those 5 principles from my mother, and I'm forever grateful.
Um, let's talk about sacrifice for a second. I think that we often don't look at what we're trying to achieve relative to where we are and realize that I'm not going to get there with my current situation, current
Mhm.
status, current work ethic, current anything, current
Mhm.
strategies. Because if I was going to, then I would already be there. You know what I mean? Like I'd already have the knowledge. I'd already be doing the stuff. I'd already have it. So when we're looking at in terms of sacrifice, we have to sacrifice, but not necessarily in a negative way. We're not going, oh, I'm a victim with my sacrifice. We are instead cutting off the stuff that is holding us back or slowing us down or preventing us from having what we want. So when we look at it, it's like you have to be willing to sacrifice something to shift your position. If I'll give you an example. I'm on my boat sinks and there's an island just there and I'm on a sinking boat. Now, the boat's probably going to keep going down. I'm not going to get anywhere and I may die, but there's some security right now. There may be sharks. I might die drowning to get to the island. I have to sacrifice the little bit of comfort and security that I have on this boat to get to the next place, because if staying on the boat was going to help me succeed, then I would be already succeeding and or feeling a progression towards it. And I think that too many people look at sacrifice as a victim instead of looking at it as a trade-off. It's a consequence. There's
Absolutely.
consequences in everything. If I choose to, be financially successful, there's a consequence that I may not be able to play in the sports teams with my friends while
Or
I'm,
go to the
or the
bars.
video games or what, go to the
Go to the
bars. Yeah.
bars, go to the clubs, hang out. Absolutely. And we'll get into some of those sacrifices and some of again, these 5 principles, as easy as they sound. Think about the 97% of society, the
Mm,
97% of society that is like middle income or poverty level, right? Or even below poverty level. They're misfiring on one of those principles at some point in their
mm,
lives. Most of them haven't made a decision. That's the first thing, right? And if someone who wants something, most of them aren't committed to what they want. So at some point, one of those principles misfires. And that's why, people like myself only make up 3% of the entire world. 3% of the entire world. You know what I mean? So I want people to really understand, the weight behind those principles out there is like, I want people to really self-reflect and evaluate themselves right now as they're listening and say, man, have I made a decision on what it is that I really want out of this life? Have I committed? Have I committed to becoming successful? Right?
Mm,
Have I made the sacrifices? Have I chosen growth over comfort? Because you can't have both.
mm,
It's either growth or comfort. There's no in between. There's no in between. And they and
yeah.
they don't like each other. Right? Comfort and growth, they don't align. They don't align. Right? So that's principle number 3 is sacrifice. And principle number 4 is like, are you really like, can you sit here, right? Can you sit here and be honest with yourself? Are you putting in the work? Are you working for someone else for 6, 8 hours a day? And then you go home and do nothing for yourself?
Mm,
You get on Netflix, you watch the football game, whatever, right? Are you putting in the work? Like, you have to, self-awareness and self-honesty and self-accountability. Man, those are 3 powerful, powerful components that can really help propel an entrepreneur. And then, to some of these folks, have they given up? Perseverance, right? Have they quit? It's kind of like that book, 3 Feet from Gold,
mm,
right? Some people are like, they grind, they grind, they grind, they grind, they grind, and they fall just a little short and they quit right before that big break comes, right before things turn around. And that's why I really love those 5 principles that I put together from my personal life experience and business experience. So I really want people out there to reflect right now and take a look at those 5 principles and see where they fall. If they're falling short, are they complying? Are they aligning? So I wanted to make sure that the listeners out there
the
understood that.
the I'll just repeat them for everyone so you can take notes. You got um, make a decision, stay committed, sacrifice, work ethic, and perseverance, or never giving up. I think an interesting point that I want to make around this is that it doesn't say in there have the right strategies, know how to do it,
Mm-mm.
find mentors, etc., etc.
Nope.
Not because you don't need them, but because if you're doing this,
Mhm.
everything else will come into play. I think that on top of that, when you talk about 3 feet from gold, right? A lot of people think, well, what if I'm 3 feet from gold and I've been doing this for 50 years? When is the point that I give up? And I think that and realize that it's not
Never,
working. And I think that that's
never,
the yeah,
never. Yeah,
because
never.
in pursuit of trying to get there, you're going to find different pathways. It's not linear. As you keep going, you keep hitting this rock, you think to yourself, well, I have to adapt my strategy. I have to change my approach, as Tony Robbins talks about, right? I have to look for a different avenue. If this thing I'm doing repeatedly is not producing my outcome and I'm not progressing, shift. But that doesn't change the level of commitment, sacrifice, work ethic, or perseverance. It's just about saying, I'm never going to give up, because the moment you give up, you guarantee
You're done.
failure.
That is when you fail. That is when you quit. That is when you fail. That's the only time you can say, man, I failed. If you don't quit, there's no way you can fail. And if you don't quit, success, or your ideal destination of where you're trying to get to, right? Success does become inevitable. You're going to get there at some point. It could be in the next 3 years. It can be in the next 10 years, right? You got guys like Andy Frisella. They look at guys like that. And I've been around Andy. I was actually on his podcast. And you look at a guy like that and you're like, man, this guy's worth a few hundred mil. And he's built like one of the biggest companies out there, First Form, in the nutrition world. And it's taken him, he's been at it for 22 years.
Mm,
You see what I'm saying? 22, it didn't happen in 2 years. That's the thing with a lot of these modern like entrepreneurs and moguls. It's like instant gratification for them. If it doesn't happen in 3 months, it's like, oh, this isn't working, I'm done. Like, where's the
mm,
grit? Where's
yeah.
that old school, like, never die mentality? People like an Andy Frisella, people like an Ed Milet, people like Tony Robbins, people like myself. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Where is that at? That's almost non-existent. Non-existent. Why? Because of social media. Social
mm.
media, you see all the glamour and you see the jets and you see the Lambos and you see the nice watches and blah 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 blah. And you're like, if I don't get that in the next 3 months, then I'm quitting. Right? I mean, people have this facade of what entrepreneurship is. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. No, you're not. What have you been through? What have you
Mm,
built? You see
mm,
what I'm saying?
100%.
People have it all wrong,
100%.
brother.
I think that when we're progressing with something and we're looking at how we measure it, it's going to dictate whether or not we're going to feel a lot of extra pressure and it's going to be hard work or it's going to be easy work. So for me, initially, we want to make money, and money matters until it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter real quick because you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, cool,
Absolutely.
another watch, another car. But I think that once you have to almost experience that to know it, because everyone can
Yep.
tell you that money doesn't matter. But when you're broke or you're struggling or you're
It's all you
looking
think
for
about.
fulfillment from it,
It's
that's
all
all
you
you
think
think
about.
about, and you obsess. And then you
Yeah,
get to a
all
certain
day.
point, you realize. But I think that when we're talking about success, like success doesn't mean I have to make a certain amount of money. I think you might get into it like that, but I think that success from this comes when you start to realize the growth and progression that you're making in your general life. Who I am now compared to a year ago, 2 years ago, is dramatically different because I'm put into situations like this, having this interview with you, for example, which gets me to constantly improve myself, constantly think about things differently, reinvent myself, understand my direction. And so as I'm going, I'm already successful because of the fact that I'm progressing myself and I'm growing. I'm a better father, I'm a better
Success leaves
husband.
clues.
Yeah.
Success leaves clues. Like I can sit here now and tell somebody, give somebody some of the best advice in their life. You ready? It's not hard to make your first million. It took me what 2.5, 3 years to make my first $1 million in business. That's not the hard part. That's
Mm,
not the hard part. You know what the hard part was? Becoming the person that was capable of
yeah.
making $1 million. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. And what does that mean, right? For everybody out there, what does that mean? Because a lot of folks out there do not understand that language,
Mm,
right? It means that you have to constantly grow, improve yourself. Because guess what? Then, right, you become successful, right? Success. Money chases success. Money chases value. But how are you going to become a successful person? How are you going to become a person of significance? How are you going to become a person of value? One day at a time, one book at a time, one
mm.
podcast at a time, right? One course at a time, one seminar at a time, one day at a time, but every single day, every single day. So you have to become a millionaire before you can actually become a millionaire. And I hope people understand that. I hope I broke that down good enough.
You can't. I liken it when I was teaching. I'm a chiropractor by trade, and we run a chronic pain clinic, and I still have the clinic. And when I was talking with clients, they'd say, "I'm going to go play sports to get fit," and I was like, "No, you got to get fit to play sports." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Well, if you go and play sports, you're going to get injured and never perform at the proper level and things like that. You have to get fit to play the sport if you want to play it seriously. Otherwise, you're just mucking
Mhm.
around. And even if you're not playing serious, you're opening yourself up to injuries because you're not playing it right. You're not playing it well. And it's the same in business. It's the same in relationships. It's the same in whatever you want. Is whatever you're doing right now is either helping you get to where you want to be or it's hindering you. And most of us are not doing the right things, and so we can't actually get to where we want to get to because we're not creating this opportunity for it to manifest. I'll say it a different way. Um, the success is already there. You're just figuring out the path to it. And part of that path is who you are and the actions you take. And if what you are doing right now is helping you get to where you wanted to be, you'd probably already be there. It'd be a hell of a lot easier and you'd have more certainty. If you're having doubts, if you're unsure, if you're trying, you're not really getting there, then you are not becoming the person who's going to receive the success. You're not creating that person. And it's just like what you said about you can now invest, 6 figures in
A
coaches,
year into
trainers,
my personal
right?
development.
Because what
Absolutely.
you've done is you've said, who does this person need to be? How do they need to be to have success? And you're thinking about, or the way that I think about it at least, is I'm thinking about myself in the third person. I've got this person that I'm trying to help get to there. I've got this business that I'm trying to help get to there. I would invest in that. And I talk about it all the time. Like I've got people that cook and clean. I've got people that help me look after my kids and educate them at home. We go on trips. We do these different things, not just for me, and most of it's not for me. It's for the business. It's for my clients because James needs to be facilitated to enable James to be the person that he needs to be to achieve the thing that he's wanting to achieve. And I don't think people understand that. They don't reverse engineer it. They don't go, what does millionaire James, what does successful James, what does good husband, good father James think, believe, and act? Does he watch Netflix instead of hanging out with his kids?
Yeah.
Does he, get overweight and unfit and so he can't run around with them? Does he, not feel good about himself so that he can't give energy to his wife and he's looking for her
Mm,
to constantly validate
mm,
him? It's like
mm.
you gotta build yourself into the person that would have that.
Oh
You
yeah.
can't just get it. It doesn't work like that.
Energy, right? Energy exceeds everything. And I'm a big believer in energy. Like, here I am, where I've been up since 3 in the morning. I came straight. I have a huge event this weekend. I got 700 people from all over the country flying in. And the only reason why it's not 1,000 is because the venue, due to COVID restrictions, is that's all we can fit. I got 700 people flying in from all over the country. I got the top speakers in the country when it comes to the real estate investing single family residential space. That's happening Friday and Saturday. So I knew, like, my bags are, I literally flew, like, from the plane. My bags are literally right there. I'll show you. There it is. I just came straight from the plane here. Right.
Yeah.
And guess what, guys? Do I have to do that? I'm already a multimillionaire. Do I
Mm,
have to do that? No, I don't have to, but I want to.
mm,
I want to. Why? People are counting on me. I got my entire team, my staff here counting on me. I got my family counting on me. I got 700 plus people counting on me for this weekend, right? So I'm doing everything in my power to have enough energy to serve not only myself. I take care of myself first, right? Self-care for sure. But I'm doing everything in my power to have the energy to serve and to show up my best version to everybody. I want to give everybody the absolute best that I have, not the rest that I have. I want to give them the best that I have. So
yeah.
that's what it's all about. Energy. Energy exceeds everything.
Um, I was gonna say that I find it funny when I hear this, but when I say that, for me, it's more of like an ironic thing. It's more that I'm sad when I hear this. When people talk about, for example, Elon or Jeff Bezos, and they're saying you've got so much money, like, why are they still doing this? How do you get up in the morning? You got so much money. How do you get up in the
They're,
morning
they're
and
past
go
the
and
money.
work?
Yeah.
And it's like, because it's not the money. And if that's your view of things, you're never going to have it because you're seeing it the wrong way. If you're getting out of bed to make the money, you're going to give up real quick. I see this in sales stuff, right? They're into it. They want to make money, but any good employee or contractor has to be in it for the vision of what you're doing and what you're creating and who they're becoming, not
Mhm.
making the money. Because real quickly, if it's just about the money, you stop showing up in the right
And
way.
that fades.
That
That fades
fades,
really
money goes
quickly.
down, you externalize the reasons why, blame everything, and then you quit. And we see it all the
Yeah.
time. It's like it can't be about the money. And if it's about the money, you're not going to get it. And that's the thing. Like, you got to be obsessed with the achievement. You got to be obsessed with the growth, and money
Your
will
why
follow.
has to be much bigger than the money, because you're gonna plateau very quickly. Once you become successful, you will plateau. You will stop growing if it's about the money. I mean, again, I believe our company first hit 7 figures plus. Our first company, which is our real estate flipping company, it hit 7 figure plus in 2016. And for 99% of people in the country, I think that we're good. We made a million plus, 2 million, 4 million, 5 million, right? Figures. We're good. We don't have to launch other companies. We don't have to hire more people. We don't have to continue to grow, parallel and vertically. We can just sit here and be fine. Be fine. That's not us. See, that happened. The money got old. Imagine chasing money your entire life, right? Because that's something we all do. We all
Mm.
like, man, I want to have the nice car. I want to have the big house, the businesses, everything, right? But then that fades in 3 to 4 months, and then what? And
Mm.
then what? That's when your real why kicks in. Wait a minute. Yeah, the money's cool, but you know what? I'm doing this for something bigger. I'm doing this for my
Mm.
family. I'm doing this to change the financial trajectory of my family, because I was dirt poor and everybody before me has been dirt poor, right? I'm doing this to build long-term wealth. I'm doing this to impact lives. There has to be a good why, or else, again, it has to be purpose. There has to be purpose involved, because that money is going to fade and that motivation is going to fade very quickly.
Yeah, it's It's the reason why people like, you have no shoes and your feet hurt and all you dream about is having shoes, and then you get shoes and then you complain that your shoes are not some nice
Yeah.
brand shoes, and then you
Or
complain you
now
want
you
10
complain
pairs
about
of
not
them. And
having a nice shirt, it's
yeah.
like, right? So it's something else, right? So
Mm,
I think that people out there, their perspective is a little twisted. Their perspective is a little twisted. Um, in my opinion, in my respectful opinion, I think people need to first and foremost start trying to produce positive thoughts and try to actually empower yourself as much as you can, even if you're the only person rooting for yourself, right? Empower yourself and start to entertain some of those powerful thoughts, those positive thoughts. And more importantly, people out there have to remember there's a book, one of the first books I ever read, back in like 2013, 2014. It was called Secret to the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. My favorite book. It changed my life. And T. Harv Eker, the author, he said, hey, your thoughts become emotions, and your emotions become actions. So people out there really need to be aware of what they're thinking about all day, because those thoughts do become feelings, and those feelings become actions.
mm.
And even if you reverse engineer it, right? If you go, okay, well, what's the action that's just taking? What am I doing today? What am I physically doing today? You can reverse engineer and be like, oh, that's why I'm doing this, because I got that feeling, and I got that thought in my head, right? And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So people really need to focus on what they're thinking about all day. And if you're just thinking about money all day, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to track it.
When you're making money decisions, you make dumb decisions. You cut costs, you cheap out, you
Yeah.
make the decision that gets you the cash in the short term, but then you get extra work and stress and emotion in the long term. You don't fire clients that you shouldn't have because they're a pain in the ass and they affect you.
Hmm.
You accept anybody instead of accepting the right ones.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things you do. You don't go on holiday because you are going to save money and then you can go and make some more money. And it's like, for what?
I
Which
did
means you
that for a
lose
very
the
long time.
emotion. I did that a lot as well.
Yeah.
You lose the
Stupid.
positive emotion, which actually empowers you to get the success. And I think that it comes down to, well, 2 points I want to make. One, because most of us are programmed with this belief of we have to get money. Um, and when we don't feel good. And we look at people who are successful and think, well, they have money, and they like money, and I like money, and I want money, and I'm not getting it. And the only way to justify that, partly from society and culture, is to say that they must have taken it. The rich have taken this wealth away. Like, there's only six oranges,
That's
and
unbelievable. Yeah.
now
Yeah.
there's less oranges here for me to have, and that's why I
Hmm.
don't have any oranges. Versus saying, actually, it's infinite. You got to create more value, because when you understand the game, you play it properly. And there's a reason why all of us who are at certain levels of success are saying the same thing constantly. It's constantly mentioned on the show, and I love it. And I always bring it up because people need to hear it multiple times. It's like, there's a reason why we talk about your emotion. There's a reason why we talk about your vision. There's a reason why we talk about who you're around and what you listen to, and because it's the truth. And wealth is a mindset, just like poverty. Broke is a situation, right? But
Yeah.
being poor is a mindset, and being rich,
Absolutely.
wealthy is a mindset, because of how you see things.
I again, I
Different
might
actions.
have might have grew up in poverty, but my mind wasn't poor. My mind
Mm,
wasn't poor for sure. And I can tell you, back to that reference you said about the oranges, right? Where people think like, oh, there's only about 6 oranges, and all the rich dudes took the oranges. No, the rich dude or the entrepreneur, he planted the damn tree. And then once that tree gave oranges, he went up there and grabbed the oranges. Then he made it into orange juice, and then he sold it. See that something that most people aren't willing to do. 97% of people are
you
not.
you ate the orange, and I took the seeds out and planted them. That's the
Yeah,
difference. And I
right.
have an
It's
orange
like,
tree. Mm,
most people aren't willing to do that. They don't want, they just want the orange, right? They just wants
mm,
the they want the finished product. They don't actually
mm,
want to, they don't want to go through the process and the pain, and the growth part of it. And that's why people are where they are, and that's
mm,
why some of us are where we are, thank God. So I just
mm,
wanted to refer back to the reference you made because I feel like it was
mm.
necessary.
Yeah, 100%. Um,
But
I think once you realize that there is a fence that you can just hop over, and it's like, cool, I'm on the belief side of like, I deserve oranges. And then I'm on the other side of the fence and I'm like, no, I go and plant seeds and create oranges and create my wealth, and I'm in control and I can have what I want. I've just got to change the way I feel and the way I think and the way that I act. And the best way to do that is to model somebody who's already doing it.
Hmm.
Suddenly you can create whatever you want. Something that I jokingly do with my son. He's 2 and he's just starting to, he's talking more and more clearly now, and he just repeats things to me. And I taught him, I was like, more value, more, and he says, more value. So I teach my son. I say to him, more value, more, and he says, more value, more money. And I was like, yeah, more money, more. And he goes, more money, more fun. And I said, so more value, more. And he goes, more value, more fun. And
Hmm.
I'm trying to teach him these concepts to think about money differently, to think about
Absolutely.
success differently, to realize that money is a currency that enables us to exchange energy for what we want or need to do. And when you understand it like that, you don't put emotion into it. You just
Hmm.
understand that it's this thing that you can use to trade and get the other thing. And if you understand that
Absolutely.
if you lead the game with value, then you have more fun. You make
Yeah.
more money, which is the thing that enables you to do more things, and you have more positive mindset. People talk about money doesn't make you happy. It's like, yeah, money doesn't make you happy. It's useless. It's a piece of
Hmm.
paper. But the ability to have a currency that you can turn into anything when you have the right mindset around it allows you to have as much fun and be super happy because you can understand it as a tool to create leverage and to deliver on that. I have lots of
Hmm.
fun with money because I can go places and do things. I'm not relying on the money to make me happy.
Hmm.
I'm creating value,
Using
which
it as a
creates the
resource, as a tool,
exactly
for sure. Yeah.
resource. Yeah.
I think a lot of people have the wrong relationship and
That's a good one.
perspective with money, or about money. Um, Again, people need to change their relationship with money. People need to understand that money is, first and foremost, money is just the fruit. It's the outcome of whatever it is that you're doing, right? But when you start looking at money and you start saying, you know what, money equals freedom.
Mm,
When you start to change your relationship and perspective, money is freedom, right? Think about it this way. Oh, money can't make you happy. Yeah, but it can solve 99.99% of your problems. And if you have less problems, then you might be happier, right? So
mm,
people need to change their perspective and their relationship when it comes to money.
100%. I see like I've been through severe depression, which is a lot of my backstory, and anxiety and things like that. And
Same.
it was the ability for me to put myself into situations that and my willingness to invest my resources, time being one of them, money being
Hmm.
another, to
Hmm.
create a change in my situation that
Yep.
has led to where I am. And so when we
Absolutely.
understand that the resources we have and the allocation of those, I think that's a big part of the equation. And time's a big one. Time's a big part of that. We don't spend our time effectively, most of us.
I uh I buy a lot of my time. I mean, you saw
Mm,
there's a nutritionist that literally brought my food. See that shrimp, right? Look at this. I don't even have to go anywhere to go get my food. I got a guy that I pay several thousands of dollars every month that brings my food to me.
mm,
Like that's the way that I operate. I pay how do I what Carlos, what do you do to save time? My barber comes to my house. My massage therapist comes to my house. I'm going to start with a yoga instructor. That person's going to come to my house. I have landscapers that come to my house. I don't do the lawn. I think my time and my skill set can be used somewhere else. I have a pool company that comes to my house. I have a person that feeds and walks my dogs, and all I got to do is have fun with them. You see, so I try to buy time as much as I can. I got a guy that comes to my office or my house to wash my cars, right? So I have more money than time. So what do I try to do, right? I try to use that money as a tool, as a resource to buy to level out a little bit, to buy some time. So that's how successful people look at money, at time, and that's how successful people use money.
yeah. I was um I was listening to Alex Hormozy. Do you know who I'm talking about? Alex Hormozy from
Mm.
Gym Launch.
No.
He runs Gym Launch and he works with thousands of gym owners, and I think they did 100 million in something like 3 or 4 years growing this company.
Mhm.
And he was talking about a similar concept about flying private and why he flies private.
Mhm.
And the fact is he could instead of buying the plane, he buys hours. And if him and his wife fly, and it's let's say $4,000 an hour or whatever, it's split down between the two of them. And then when he gets that destination, he's got no customers. He's got his bags and his cars are there. Everything's done. It's super easy. He can get on the plane when he wants, gets off, and it's done. And so when he looks at it, people say to him, that's a crazy amount of money. Like, he could have just flown, business class or whatever on a normal airline. He said, no, but I value my time more than that. And what could I do with that time?
He's at that level. He's at
so
that level
suddenly it's
already.
micro,
Yeah. I have flown private many times for that reason. And like right now, I flew in business, first class, on the way to New Jersey, Delta, on the way back, United. I got this membership called Clear, where they scan your eyes and you walk straight to the front. So I'm trying to save as much time as possible without having to be, I'm not saying that he's being wasteful, because, I believe that at some point, I believe that, we're going to have to probably do the same. As far as, either our company will buy, our own jet or of some kind, right? Because I'm doing a lot of speaking around the country. So at some point, the money that I make is going to pretty much overtake the money that I spend on flying private. You get what I'm saying? So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
If in the next 3 to 5 years, somebody's paying me $50,000 to fly to LA, and it's costing me $10,000 to get there, right? And then I got another show, let's just say in Florida, and they're paying me $100,000, right? Well, whatever I spent on that jet to get to California, and then let's just say I spend 10K, and then I spend 30K to get to Florida, right? Well, now, if you think about it, I made 50K in LA and I made 100,000 in Florida. That's 150K that I made, that was made possible because of the time and the resource of the jet. And I only spent $40,000. I'm actually up $110,000 for that day. So that's when people actually start to fly private.
Like, for me, it was flying. What do you guys call it in the US? First class, right? For me, first class is like the cabins at the front of the plane on long haul.
Yep.
But we fly business and things like that, and we're going to Europe. And normally you're an economy, you're crammed in there. It's way cheaper, but you feel horrible. You get off the plane. It takes so long to get on, like 400 people.
Brother, I'm at work.
Crap.
I just had a 4-hour flight.
Yeah.
I was so comfortable in first class, right? And God knows, I didn't get on an airplane until I was like mid-20s. You know what I mean? Like I just started flying a few years ago. But again, here I am at work, getting work done, right? We sold a seat. This guy, Mike, he's given us like $30,000. And all I had to do was talk to one of my staff members to allow him to come to our event, and with 4 other people. And it's like, I'm already up, $30,000-$40,000 today, right? From just showing up, because I spent, $1,500 flying first class. You know what I mean? So again, you just have to change your relationship and your perspective when it comes to money.
Yeah, 100%. It was a game changer for us when we did that. We had one experience and we went, I'm never going back to economy. And then after that, it meant that I had more time, more energy, enjoyed the trip, had a better time with my wife, created more energy, which allowed me to invest into other things. I had more time. And I think that, like you said, like, you might not be, as you listen to this, you might not be at that level yet and even thinking about those things, but it can be as simple as, am I doing everything in my house? Could I save 2 hours a week and a bunch of energy and frustration by not cleaning it and having somebody else do it, and then use those 2 hours to see clients? That's what I did in my practice. I was like, do I clean my house for 2 hours, or do I see 8 patients and make 4 times?
And then you just pay the clean lady. In my case, we have a clean lady that comes twice a week, and I think we pay her $300 a week. Well, guess what? I think I make a hell of a lot more money than $300, than the $300 that it's costing me to have my house clean. You know what I mean? Being at work helps me make a lot more money. So I think we might have lost some people out there that are listening, like, wait, well, what's going on here? Because again, they're not there yet, maybe, but I believe that there are some people that, we just shine some light into how this whole money game works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I can go super deep with this. Let's bring it back a bit. So you're in a situation now, from where you started and where you are now. You've got 27 businesses and 7 of them are doing over 7 figures. Give me some ideas on how you did that conceptually, because for the listeners, I think it'd be interesting. I see it as you make you make a business, you get the model, it works, and you begin to replicate the
It's a
model.
formula.
Mm,
It's literally a formula. And we figured that out after several years, of course, with our primary business, our baby, which is fixing and flipping properties. And we actually wholesale properties in 48 states, and we fix and flip properties in 3 states, right?
mm,
For those of you that don't know what wholesaling is we actually don't have to do the work in those other 48 states. We just kind of find the property and give it to somebody else to do the work, and we make a huge check on just finding that property, right?
mm,
On the fix and flip side in California, Nevada, and Arizona, we actually have construction crews that actually flip the houses. That we buy the house discounted, we rehab the property, we list the property. That's what we
mm,
do, right? So everything we had to go through with that company, right? And it was a very simple formula. It was literally like vision was number one, vision, and then we systemized the company. That's systemization, and then automated we automated that company, and then we delegated that company. We actually started hiring leadership and personnel to take on 95, 97, 98% of the day-to-day operations. I don't speak to sellers, I don't speak to contractors, I don't speak to anybody but my leaders in that company. If ever, I speak to my CFO more than I speak to anybody else. I speak to my asset director that handles our fix and flips and our rentals. And then I speak to my sales director, which handles the acquisition team. So after we got that formula down, we moved on to our next company, right? Which was a medical company, National Medical Surplus. Same thing, build, systemize, automate, delegate, move on. Next, solar. Next, digital marketing. Next, education. You see, we just formula,
mm,
formula, formula. That's
mm.
exactly how we were able to continue to build our conglomerate or organization.
Um, there is a point where you sacrifice short-term profits for
Absolutely,
long-term, and that's
absolutely.
a pain point for a lot of people. They get to this place and they're like, if I just work harder, I'll make more money. If
Time
I
or money,
delegate, yeah,
time or money. Choose one. You can't have both. Time or money. I choose time. 100 out of 100 times. I choose time.
now,
So
when you play it
therefore,
right, you play it right, you end up, you choose, and then you can have
I could
more of.
retire right now in my 30s. I could
Mm,
retire right now, and I believe I'll be fine.
mm,
But again, and why? Why can I retire? I don't have to be here. I don't have to show up. See, you can't produce wealth until you literally can produce income or money while it doesn't, like, you don't have to be there, like in your sleep, in your sleep
mm,
from home, like you don't have to be there. That's the only time you're ever going to actually be able to produce wealth. And that's what we've been able to build with our organization is I don't have to be here. I don't have to be
mm.
here. I don't have to be here to do anything. The team runs itself. The machine runs. I can be in Hawaii for the rest of the year and I'll still get paid.
Yeah, yeah, 100%,
So yes, sir.
100%. It's a different way of looking at things, like we've talked about the entire show. It's
Yeah,
thinking about the problem differently, thinking about the outcomes differently, looking at the resources differently, and all this comes back to is having the right mindset around it and making a decision that you're going to make some change. So I'm going to summarize those last 5 points before we transition here.
absolutely.
We've got make a decision. You have to decide. You have to cut off from all other options. And the way that I look at it, and the way that I was taught through Tony Robbins is if you want to take the island in a battle situation, you burn your boats. And the reason for that is you've made a decision that I have to take the island, otherwise I'm not going home.
Burn the ships.
And you got to
Yep.
do it. You got to make a decision. Too many of us make a decision, but really we're still over here. Like we haven't
Hmm.
left. I'm like, oh
Yep.
yeah, I'm making a
Lukewarm.
decision, but we're still really in the old way of doing it. And that's why people don't have success. They don't cut off. You got to be committed to it. You've got to sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't have to be negative as it sounds. Sacrifice is just choosing to not allocate resources here. I'm not going to watch Netflix, go out with the boys, etc., etc. I'm going to do this instead. And I did that, right? I'm only 30 now, but I didn't go drinking in bars and all that. I used my Friday nights. I used my evenings. I
Absolutely.
allocated my time. I sacrificed those things for what I was wanting to create. The fourth is
Absolutely.
work ethic. You can do all the previous three, but if you're not actually working effectively, then you're probably not going to produce a meaningful return. And the fifth thing is that you can work hard when you're working, but if you're not persevering despite obstacles and continuing to go because you give up, even though you're efficient when you work, you give up too quick, you're never going to get there either. Dude, this is going to be such a good episode, and there's been so much value in it. Where can our audience connect with you online and see what you're up to?
Very easy to find. Very easy to find. Carlos Reyes, CarlosReyes, on Instagram. Connect with me there. Let me know you heard this episode. And what I'll do is I'll send you a free copy, a free digital copy of my book, which talks about mindset, spirituality, and real estate.
Amazing. So everyone, just send him a DM on Instagram. Let him know that you've seen the show. We'll put this in the show notes as well, and he'll get you that. Appreciate you, dude. This has been so good.
Thank you,
Enjoy
brother.
your conference. Hope it crushes. Thanks, man.
For sure. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to the show. If you like the episode, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. I'd really appreciate it, as it helps us get our episodes out to more people just like you who want to know how to increase their revenue, impact more people, and build businesses that work for the lifestyle they want. Now, I know your time is valuable, and I know that you are here to learn the secrets to success in your health business. So I have something special for you just for checking out the episode. Now, if you're a health professional, coach, or trainer in business, and you're serious about growing a profitable, impactful business, then pay attention, because as a listener of the show, I want you to win. And so I've created a host of resources available exclusively for listeners of the show. So if you're tired of trying to figure out this game of business, marketing, and sales all on your own, and you're ready to just implement what's already proven to work rather than reinventing the wheel, I want you right now to go and check out healthcarebusinesssecrets.com/insider, and there you'll find over $5,000 worth of trainings, resources, and coaching available only for listeners of the show. There I'll give you the resources on everything from how to acquire 10 times more of your ideal clients using social media and paid ads, even referrals, how to increase your client conversion into packages at an 80 to 90% conversion rate like me, how to retain your clients for longer, getting them better results and making them happier, how to increase your prices and charge a premium to work with you, and how you can build a multi-six, even 7-figure practice just like I did, but with 1/10 of the time and 1/10 of the effort. What I want you to realize is that everything I teach comes from exactly what I did to have success and still have success in my own health business, and I want to share that with you so you can have success too. So go check out healthcarebusinesssecrets.com/insider right now and let me help you win big in your health business. Also remember to subscribe for 2 episodes every week full of the secrets to have success in your health business, as well as leave us a review so we know what you thought of the show. And I'll see you on the next episode.